The question is, how did it begin? What does the Messianic movement mean? What is it about? Why is the church committed to converting the Jewish people? Because that's what Messianic churches are. They're churches that are designed to convert Jews to Christianity.
Okay, so that's the whole thing I got. Go ahead.
Thank you. Wow. So there you go. Now you have a room full of people who are just listening to this, swallowing it, and saying, wait a minute, time out. First, for me, I'll say church is not a bad word for me. Church, okay? Yep. When you say the church, and then you have fill in the blank verb, the church does this. That you start getting, it's like, okay, wait a minute. This guy already is going into la-la land. It's just the same thing. If I said Judaism believes blank, or like we saw earlier in the show, we adhere to the teachings of the Jewish sages concerning the northern kingdom of Israel. No, there is no uniform monolithic doctrine. So this is already problematic. But the other thing is it doesn't, yes, the gospel is for the whole world, including the stock of Abraham. No question about that. But he doesn't put it that way. But Gentiles who are keeping Torah and Jews who are keeping Torah are doing it because they want to walk in the Torah, because they love God with all their heart, soul, and strength, and they want to walk in the Torah. It's because of obedience. The way he paints it, it's malicious. It's like he paints the picture as if it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. What I take away from the clip you just played, Caleb, is that it's almost sinister.
Well, hang on just a sec. Okay, wait, I want to stop you there because Derek actually is right in the chat room, and I was going to bring this up too. Although Mr. I think that what he's saying here had truth at one time. So in other words, when we look at the formation of the Messianic...
Okay, granted. Okay, go ahead.
When we look at the formation of the Messianic movement in the 20th century, what we have groups like the MJAA and whatnot. They're coming out of Christian charismatic organizations. And what those charismatic organizations are trying to do is they are trying to reach the Jewish people. And they have a love for Israel. They have a love for the Jewish people. You know, Mr. Singer in this whole lecture, and really, it's a 45-minute response to a question is what this clip is. It's a 45-minute response to one question. And so what he's saying here is that,
here's an example. In the early 20th century, you had in New York and Brooklyn areas where there were high Yiddish, because you had Ashkenazim communities, where they were meeting on Saturday and they were sharing the gospel in Yiddish, right? So that was definitely an example of Jewish outreach. And it wasn't necessarily the aim from the idea of the missionaries was not to set a standard of Torah observance. That was not their goal. Well, the goal was to share the gospel. But you can see how someone might say, oh, you're Christians who don't believe, because Christians traditionally don't adhere to the Torah of Moses as a lifestyle liturgical system, or however we want to call that. And now all of a sudden you're doing these things. Now all of a sudden it's suspicious.
Okay, hang on just a sec. So there's two main points here I want to make. First of all, we should give a little credit where credit is due. The MJAA and other groups like that back in the early 1900s, they came out of the charismatic movement attempting to reach the Jewish people. Granted, and the tactic was, I agree with this too. In the 70s, there was this move to, okay, if we can basically make a church service on Saturday look like a synagogue, and then the Jews will feel at home, they'll come in, and then we can give them the gospel. The problem is that backfired on the charismatic movement, because what ended up happening was, and we'll talk about this a lot, I'm sure, through this, but what ended up maybe we'll save it. The other point is that Mr. Singer has grossly oversimplified the Christian movement, and I wish I would have pulled this. he takes the passage, and I'm sure that some Christian groups too, but he takes the passage where it says, they will call out and say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Then the Messiah comes back. So he takes this to mean that that there is going to be this mass conversion of Jews to Christianity before the Messiah comes. And so he sees the missional work of the church. That is, that the church is trying to evangelize Jewish people as them attempting to get the Messiah to come back. Because what he is saying is that churches believe that the Messiah won't come back until there's this huge conversion. I certainly take this passage much differently, because I take it in cooperation with the other scripture that says that the Israel will be pushed into the inner walls, right? There's going to be this huge war, all these kind of things. I see this as the end time after the tribulation, all these kind of things. And then, then the people look to the sky and say, Lord, help, right? Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. And then, boom, what happens? I have this imagery in my own mind. All of a sudden, the cloud parts, and here comes Yeshua riding on the horse, right? I mean, this is the imagery that we have. Whether or not that's exactly what it's going to look like or not, whether or not we have metaphor or whatnot, who knows? But my point is that I see this as right before the Messiah comes, when all hope is lost. I don't see this as the Christians going out and handing out tracts, and all of a sudden enough Jews all of a sudden convert to Christianity, and boom, the Messiah's like, all right, enough of you believe, I'm coming back now. And personally, I'm sure that there are churches who teach that we need to go out and we need to evangelize the Jewish people, because otherwise the Messiah, it's not until they convert until the Messiah comes back. However, the majority of evangelical churches that I have been in do not hold to that belief.